V.S. Holmes is an international best-selling author. They created the Blood of Titans fantasy series and the NEL Bentley books. Smoke and Rain, the first book in their fantasy quartet, won New Apple Literary's Excellence, an independent publishing award in 2015, and a Literary Titan Gold in 2020. Travelers is also included in the Peregrine Moon Lander mission as part of the Riders on the Moon Time Capsule. As a disabled and non-binary human, they work as an advocate and educator for representation in SFF worlds. When not writing, they work as a contract archaeologist throughout the northeastern US. They live with their spouse, a fellow archaeologist, their dog Rory, and own too many books. So would you tell me, just give us a little introduction to yourself beyond that, and what got you into archaeology, because that's really cool, and then what got you into writing and how you became an author?
Hi. So first of all, thanks so much for having me. This is fun. And yeah, so how I got started with archaeology is sort of an accident. I was actually in the like pre-med track studying biology, and I met this guy on a ferry who was reading a very interesting article on the front page of this newspaper. It was like a local college paper. And it was about this very, very old site on Crete. And since I was very interested in like human, evolution and development and things like that, I asked if he wouldn't mind if I read it after he was done. And it turned out it was actually his site, and they were looking for volunteers. And so we just started talking, and yeah, I ended up going, and it just changed my world. I do joke that yeah, I was doing the pre-med thing, and then I decided that I preferred my people already dead when I got to them, which isn't strictly true. But archaeology and the pursuit of truth and story and humanity is something that's always spoken to me, and I think that's also a huge part of why I write and why I write what I do. I'm sure as a writer, especially as sort of straddling that nonfiction and fiction boundary, it's a very blurry boundary. So
You write primarily fiction, is that correct?
yeah, I'm sort of exclusively speculative fiction. I've dabbled in nonfiction, but it's mostly just like therapy, right? So
Right. Oh, very
not
cool.
not for public consumption.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, why did you decide to become an author?
So as growing up, I didn't see a lot of books with characters that were like me, who felt like me, who loved like I do, and I didn't notice that that wasn't the case until suddenly I saw this book, and it was Alana by Tamora Pierce, one of those classic young adult fantasies, and here was this tomboy redhead who had a bad temper, and it just blew my mind because it was the first time I was really seeing someone who was like me. And that was just so impactful. And I realized, like, oh, I haven't seen this before. And then when I decided to get into writing professionally, I wanted to pay that forward. I wanted to create stories where there were people who were like me, because I wasn't seeing them quite as much. And thankfully, in the past few years, that's definitely changed. I think, there are a lot more stories from all sorts of different marginalized people. But, we could definitely use some more. And that's a huge part of it. And I also wanted to explore the connections between people and between our pasts and how that impacts our future, which is, again, going back to the archaeology thing. And that's something that I try and hold on to as my craft changes and as my stories change.
And what's been your favorite part of the journey so far, and what have you learned along the way?
I've learned so much. I've learned everything, right? And there's still like worlds that I have to learn. Um, we're always learning, I think, as creative people. But one of my favorite things that I've found is honestly the community. This is a really hard job. It's a hard thing to do to try and support yourself being creative, and a lot of us can't. And I think honestly finding people who share our dreams and our passions and our love for story is really, really important. Probably the most important thing. A lot of times when you are trying to market your book, there are all these tips and tricks and, 5 best ways to become a bestseller. And honestly, I think a lot of it boils down to finding your audience. And finding your audience is really just finding people who read the same things you read, who want to read your book and your work and the characters that you create. And that has been absolutely the most important thing. I've made lifelong friends, just positing a question to the internet like, hey, I have a deaf protagonist. Does anyone know someone who can sensitivity read? And I found a huge community there of people who I still talk to, and that's really, really important to me.
Thank you. Were there any challenges that you experienced in the past or experiences with writing or aside from writing that you were able to overcome? And yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. I think I've definitely experienced a lot of challenges, as someone who is disabled, as someone who is non-binary. It's hard to, sometimes it's hard to wake up in the morning and like, okay, got to do this fight again. Yay. And so honestly, part of that community, that writing community, has really helped support me and honestly helped me figure out who I was. Someone would say something, I'm like, oh my God, that really resonates with me too. And there's a word for that. Huh, who knew? Definitely that, but also as I write my characters going through things, I find that trying to solve their problems, even though I'm not, fighting an intergalactic space feud myself most of the time, I find that the way they tackle those challenges can help me learn how to tackle some of my own. Especially in particular, my character, Dr. Nell Bentley, has a terrible temper, and I'd like to think mine's a little bit better. I control my tongue a little bit better in professional settings most of the time. But doing my work with her and seeing how she deals with her temper and deals with all of the issues that she creates for herself most of the time has really helped me think about how I tackle things like that, both in a professional setting and also just with various relationships.
I've heard a lot of cool stories of how authors relate to their characters, and it really, it's like you become a part of that world, like they're your best friends in a sense, and I like that you say like it's like you're solving their problems, and yeah, it becomes very real, very cool.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think a lot of us have pieces of ourselves in our characters. I'm sure you get the question too, like, oh, which of your characters is most like you? It's like, I don't know, they all are kind of.
Right. Yeah. It all came from me. So that's cool. What advice would you give to somebody who's either struggling to write a book in the first place or somebody who wants to publish their book?
Take a deep breath. That's my first. Honestly, I think trying to remember why you started in the first place, what about that story needed to be told for you. Um, I think that's something that as we get not necessarily bogged down, because it is a really important part, marketing wise, but as we get sort of fixated on marketing and bestseller status and reviews and all of the zillion pieces that go into actually publishing a book, it can be very hard to hold on to why we started in the first place because it's very discouraging. There's lots of ups and downs, really high highs, really low lows. And I think if you can hold on to the heart of your book, the heart of your characters, that is probably one of the most important things, and it'll help you hold on to the hope and sort of why the heck did I start this monstrous project in the first place. So definitely that. And also when it comes to finding your voice, let your voice change from book to book. It can be hard when you start a project and then you're a very different person when you finish the project. I'm actually facing that right now. And I'm having to remind myself, like, remember this book, remember the heart of this particular book, and all those fun ideas that you want to explore, that can be the next book, which is definitely something I'm struggling with.
Thank you. And what kind of stuff have you done so far to promote your books, and what has worked for you and what not so much?
I've tried everything. No, it feels like I have. For me, I do a lot of just launch day marketing, as far as trying to find reviewers, various pre-order campaigns. I'm a very slow writer, so for me in particular, the rapid release model that a lot of independent authors use just doesn't work because there's nothing rapid about my process. Part of that is balancing day job and other life stuff, which as a parent, I'm sure you you understand that. So For me, I've found that really focusing on launch day and reviews and things like that is really helpful, and just like slow and steady for me. As far as like services and things like that, definitely people who will get your book in front of the right readers. That's something, whichever service you use, make sure that they are targeting the right readers. For me, it's a very niche, like queer sci-fi. And finding those people in particular is really important, because if you find the wrong people, you're going to get a lot of negative reviews. So that, and then also I've been working with Creative Edge, which is an amazing publicity company. Mickey Mickelson always has my back, and I've just been overjoyed to be working with him for the past, I think, 5 years now. And that's definitely been one of the biggest moves for me, because I don't have the time to find and vet, all sorts of different opportunities. So definitely those would be my top top ones. So actually, something that just happened like the other day, yesterday, was the Global Book Awards came out, and my most recent book in the Star's Edge Nell Bentley series, Heretics, won a silver in hard sci-fi, which was very exciting. I had sort of forgotten that was happening, and then it just came out. So that's super, super exciting for me. And then, as far as what's coming up for me, I've been working on Fugitives, which is number 5. There'll be a total of 6 books, so getting close to the ending there. And I've been working hard on book 5, and I'm really excited to sort of show how Nell, who is an archaeologist, but gets thrown into this high tech world and higher stakes world, mostly just following a very, very cute girl. I'm excited to show how a lot of that backfires, and get more into the nitty gritty of some of the character development as they deal with a killer sound wave that is affecting both Earth and their starship fleet. So that's something I'm really excited about working on, and I get to explore some of the side characters. Side characters are like I don't know, my little addiction, guilty pleasure. I have a lot of fun sort of showcasing aspects of the main characters through their eyes, mostly through confrontation when it comes to Nell Bentley. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to sharing with readers.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for taking the time to meet with me. I really appreciate this.